Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Sunday sermon with your boy Sam. Want to thank everybody who has returned. There might be like one, maybe two of you there, so thank you for my loyal listeners. What we're going to do today is I want to take you through a bit more of my book, and I won't do this every week. There'll be other times where I'll grab lessons from other books, other religious texts, other philosophy books, all that sort of jazz, and read it out to you. Anything that sort of stands out for me. And eventually, I want to be able to then break that down with you guys when we bring this live and, just see where the conversation flows. But got lots of interesting books that I can share some philosophical insight into, or at least my own philosophical insight. And hopefully we can all grasp a little bit better of an understanding of this crazy reality that we live in. But without further ado, let's get into this book. I'm excited to bring this with you. Excited to see where it goes. I've only really read the first page or two. Even though I wrote it, it's still, obviously, I wrote it a little while ago, so I kind of forget about it. But we'll see. We'll might need to try and decipher some of it as we go along, because we're probably starting to understand that my writing can be quite sporadic as well, just like this crazy little thing. But anyway, so let's get into it. Kind of like the trillions of cells that are coming together to create the person that is here right now, digesting the words that I have written with exactly you in mind. You are here for a reason, and science is trying to understand how you are here, not why you are here. We shouldn't treat science with the dogmatic rule like we do with religion. Our science has changed and evolved over the years. For example, the bloke who first proposed that we weren't the center of the universe was burned at the stake for heresy. Kind of an ironic story for what we were just talking about. But science doesn't actually know why or how we are here. We, statistically speaking, shouldn't exist. The probability of you being here is just as mind-blowing as black holes. Like, we really shouldn't exist. But yet, here you are, experiencing all of this around you. Aren't you lucky? If it had taken consciousness another 5 to 10% longer to evolve, we actually wouldn't be alive. So that's in reference to the scale of our human existence on this planet and the existence of the universe. So humans have been around, we've been anatomically identical. Humans have been found back 300,000 years. So let's date that back, to our great ancestors, maybe a couple million years old, a few million years old. The universe has been around for 13.8 billion years. That's a considerable amount longer. So even though humans seemingly have been around for a long time, they haven't been around for that long when compared to the rest of the universe. But anyway, I digress a little bit. So we just so happen to be in this Goldilocks period in the history of the universe, and we take that for granted. Another fun fact about your physical body is that it actually leaves out far more than it takes in. You see only a minuscule part of the color. You see only a minuscule part of the color spectrum. You only hear a tiny part of the sound frequencies. And smelling? How the hell does smell travel into your own conscious awareness? Scientists are just starting to work out that smell actually works because of quantum mechanics. But again, that is just another story that I believe because someone much smarter than me said so. I only pretend to kind of understand it, but here I am using it in my writing. Science is weird, and so is your existence. I think we can all start agreeing with that, right? Let's go into another fun fact in science. We still don't know how we go from quantum mechanics to Newtonian physics. So that's those little I don't think I've explained that to you guys. When you read the book, I'll explain some crazy bullets, but yeah, you'll have to wait for that to come out unless I go back and read it again. Anyway, so quantum mechanics is the tiniest of tiny that we know, and Newtonian physics is the physical world that we see. So those going from the atomic world and the subatomic world up into that physical world that we exist in. So the quantum field that we were talking about earlier, where you have the power, where all possibilities are happening at all the time. That's the quantum world. So how do we go from that into us? So let's go into another fun fact in science. We still don't know how we go from quantum mechanics to Newtonian physics. Yeah, the dude who had an apple fall on his head and discovered gravity, or so the story goes. That's Newton. Anyway, scientists don't understand how we go from nothing to something. How you go from a quantum state that is 99.999999% nothing. That tiny little piece of something is one of those weird bullets from earlier on. There we go. You are made up of basically nothing, and yet that little bit of something is what makes you, you. And I think that makes you quite bloody special. So how do we go from nothing to something? Because obviously you aren't nothing. Literally the opposite, as you are everything. But we go from a state of impossibleness to the you that is here, experiencing this reality because of, you. That is the secret of the world behind the curtain of your very own consciousness. The literal power of creation is within you. That is the same power that made the Big Bang happen. That is the same power that allowed a sperm and an egg to grow into this beautiful creature of creation. That is the same power that you have the ability to access. Now, because that power is within you, take one guess where you will need to look to first of all find it and then learn to work with it. It cannot be harnessed because it is the power of creation, but it can be tapped into and accessed by you. That is what quantum physics is on the verge of also tapping into. Let me explain to you how much power you have within just the boundaries of your own meat vessel. Your body is made up of cells. We all should know that, as that is some very basic biology. But can you tell me how many cells your body is made up of? Or how about how many volts each of those tiny little cells has the potential to release? Before we answer those questions, let's go down the rabbit hole that is the absurdity of your existence once more. Let's look at all those those aforementioned cells that make up you. Sorry about that. Without those cells, you wouldn't exist. That is a fairly safe statement to make, and one that we can all agree on, right? The average human cell size is about 50 microns in length. Sorry to my American friends, you're going to have to work out that size in inches. So 50 microns is about 0.05 millimeters in length. So it's pretty bloody small. But they do range as well, I'll add here. They go from about 0.03 up to about 0.1, I believe, in length, in micron meters. So yeah, but let's average it down to 50 microns. So, okay. So the human cell size is about 50 micron in length. So think about those small bricks that, when put together by a super highly skilled bricklayer, they all work together to make their building come to life, and for some even more peculiar circumstance, makes that building sentient. How does that happen? How do we go from this individual tiny little organism to this big creature that thinks it runs the body? How do we go from this individual tiny little organism to this big creature that thinks it is what runs the body? Let's go back to the first question, because it is really going to emphasize my point here. How many cells do you all work How many cells do you think all work together to create the building that is you? The answer is about 37 trillion cells. Let's write that number out because I don't think you appreciate how large of a number it actually is. And I've written it out, so when you get the book, it'll be written down. It's a big number. Anyway, we digress. That actually took me way too long to work out how to write correctly. Yeah. Anyway, my brain, welcome to it. Allow me to scale that number in another way. This way is a little thought experiment that our minuscule brains can actually understand. And yes, I know that you know that 37 trillion is a big number, but I don't think you understand just how big. So follow along with another one of Uncle Sam's thought experiments. Some of you might have heard this already, so you're welcome for the refresher. For those who haven't, you are welcome to the introduction. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I want you to think about them for a brief moment before you read on to the answers. Don't use a calculator to work it out. Just think for a moment. How many days do you think 1 million seconds would be? What about 1 billion seconds? And how about 1 trillion? Think about that for a moment. And for those who are listening along on the video, feel free to pause it, come back, whatever. You know, if you've thought about it instantly, go for it. Listen on. But anyway, I hope you thought about it because I'm about to give you the answer. 1 million seconds is 11.5 days. Now you know that. What are your thoughts on 1 billion? Does it remain the same as what you first thought, or has it changed? So let's go again. 1 million seconds is 11.5 days, roughly. Well, 1 billion seconds equates to just under 32 years. Last time, does your original guess remain for the trillion seconds, even in light of this new information, or would you like to re-guess it? If you're a little bit of a mathematician, then you should be able to work out the last answer. Something that is concerning is how many people wouldn't be able to calculate that in their own heads without the use of a calculator. The even more concerning point is that there are still people that couldn't work out any of this, even with a calculator. But it's okay. For where we're all going, no calculator is going to be needed. And thank God, or at this point, do I just start saying thank you? Or me? Or we? Because we are God. So, thank you that we won't be needing calculators. But for those who worked it out, well done. For those in the back, 1 trillion seconds equals just under 32,000 years. I hope that puts things into perspective, and that now you are starting to understand that even though you think you know something, you might not actually know it. At least, not all of it. It was Socrates who said, "The only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing." The fact that we can misunderstand something as simple as a large number. What other aspects of this life are we either misunderstanding or underestimating? This same thought experiment can be transferred in place of money. The seconds can represent dollars, and you will start to understand the absurdity within the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire. We're even well on our way to seeing our first recorded trillionaire. And at time of writing, we will likely see them by the end of this decade. Which is another absurd fact, considering we only just saw our first company to break the $1 trillion threshold. Now that we're done with that little tangent, shall we return to the cells and the potential power that you have hidden within the meat sack of yours? Now we know that you have a lot of building blocks that make up your home upon this giant spinning rock. What about the second question I had? How many volts are each cell? If a standard watch battery is about 1.5 volts, so for those playing at home, this watch, standard watch battery is 1.5 volts. How many volts would that cell be? Now remember, that cell is only on average about 50 micron meters in length. So 0.05 of a millimeter. I won't take you down another rabbit hole in the form of a thought experiment, not just yet anyway. I will give you the answer. The average voltage potentiality across each individual cell that makes up you, yes, all 37 trillion of them, is 0.7 volts. Now, if you can do the maths here, well done. But if you can't, the answer is 25.9 trillion potential volts within your own body. Think back to those watch batteries for a moment. It required just under 17.3 trillion batteries to have the same voltage as your body. That's a lot of batteries. That is the literal science-backed power within your own body. Imagine if you had the ability to tap into that power and energy within. And that is just the power within the boundaries that you set on the edge of your skin. Imagine when you grant yourself the ability to tap into the energy source within the entire universe. You have the ability to do this. You are, after all, God. Or at least, you are the physical manifestation of God within this 3D state of existence. How you do this is something that I cannot teach you, particularly from the confines of this book. For once again, this is not something that you can be taught. What I do hope to achieve from this book is to illumine your very first step, or possibly to act as a guiding light if you're already within your own journey. The thing is, whether you're conscious of it or not, you are actually already on your journey. My job is to try to bring your self-awareness back home. For many lives, you have relinquished your knowledge of your ultimate magnificence and power. Because you have relinquished that knowledge for so many lives, that not only have you relinquished the power, you have forgotten that you have access to it. So how do you create this something out of nothing? Or maybe a better statement would be, how do you create everything out of nothing? The reason that it happens, once more, is that you are the Godhead. You are the conductor of the universe. The only difference is that your existence in this reality is so that you can look back, so you can look at the back of your own Godhead. You are here to make known the unknown, to make conscious the unconscious. Remember when I mentioned earlier that the power of creation is within you, and that is a power that you can access, but it cannot be harnessed. That power is a cosmic breath of the universe. That power is what gives life to all creatures on this planet. That power is the life force of God, the life force of you. In science, that energy is called the quantum field. It is the place in no time and nowhere, but at the same time, it is in all places at all times. Within the quantum field, all possible past, present, and futures exist. This is the moment of infinite possibility where all time is happening all the time. The quantum field exists outside of our observation, outside your conscious awareness. This is, once again, a repeatable experiment by science. Please refer back to the double slit experiment I spoke about earlier if you're questioning the basis of my claim. When I say that this power cannot be harnessed, I mean that you cannot take control of it while in this physical form. This physical form that you are in, digesting these words, is a state of duality, because you exist both in this physical world with your physical body, but you also keep one foot in the backstage behind the curtain that I mentioned earlier. That dual state is an important part of your existence. After all, it is the reason that you are here. But if you want to access that creative power of the universe, then you will need to let go of your physical self. This is moving into the state of non-duality. The state of non-duality is the state where you become nobody and no things. These two distinctions are very important. Becoming no body is exactly as the name suggests. Becoming no body. This is a complete disconnection with that meat sack that you call home. Yes, this means saying farewell to the 37 trillion friends that work together to make you, you. But don't worry, because they are your mates. They will take care of it for you while you're away. By moving into a state of where you have disassociated from your body, you aren't limited by the boundaries of this three-dimensional reality that you woke up in. If you really want to move into the quantum field, where all time is happening all the time and where all outcomes are possible, do you really think that you could break through that barrier whilst holding on to the attachment of your body? Now you have gotten rid of your attachment to your physical human existence to become no body. It is time to become no thing. What becoming no thing means is to have absolute detachment from that little part of us that we call the ego. This might be a statement that a lot of people disagree with, but the ego is just a label that we put onto something that doesn't really exist. Much like a God separate to you doesn't exist. You are one and the same. You are God and God is you. So therefore, a God as a separate entity outside of you doesn't exist. All you are doing is creating yourself inside your own universe and then forgetting that you did it. So the only reason that God exists outside of you is because you make it that way. Quite the paradox, huh? Like the God, the ego only exists within a reality that we allow it to exist within. So to truly become no thing, we must let go of all attachment to the ego. But the ego is a slippery criminal. You are that good at acting as if you aren't God that you have created an immune system that will protect the ego. And that self-made immune system is actually all there is. To become no thing, one must become no thing. You are not to identify with any label that you or anyone else puts onto you. Any label that you put onto yourself is taking away from who you truly are. To be your authentic self, you must simply be. When you go past attachment to the physical and non-physical, you then become pure consciousness. That pure consciousness is what then gets to play within the quantum field. It is within these moments that you start to truly understand the world in which all realities are possible. It is within these moments that we get a glimpse into the green room and can really start to consciously impact our reality of everyday existence. Reaching that state within the quantum field is reaching the state that the yogis refer to as Samadhi. Samadhi is the eighth limb of yoga and is the complete removal of our dualistic nature. The yogis say that if you get even the tiniest glimpse into the state of Samadhi, then your life will be impacted forever. Samadhi is such a powerful point of existence that even a momentary peek at it will alter your life in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. This experience is not reserved for yogi master practitioners or for monks that spend their lives in the mountains within monasteries. This realization is accessible by every single entity within this reality. All it takes is for you to silence the noise within your entire being. It will require much practice as the noise has been going on within you for generations, and because it has been going on for so long, your body has come to accept it as normal. And because your body now accepts it as normal, when you go to find and sit within that silence, your immune system that I spoke about earlier will start to work against you and fight back against the silence. This fight of the immune system will look like restlessness of the body and mind when stopping to meditate. That can come in the form of your body becoming itchy or sore. It will come in the form of invasive thoughts. This can all be defeated and overcome by one simple strategy. This strategy applies to basically any challenge that you will come toe to toe with in this life. Persistence beats resistance. Meditation, when you become a skilled practitioner, can be done anywhere and anytime, whether that is standing in line to order a coffee while you're gambling or while you're sitting cross-legged on the floor. all meditation is the centering of yourself within this crazy existence. A silencing of the happenings within your world. Much like any form of exercise, meditation takes practice, but is a skill set that could potentially have the greatest impact on your life. When you sit within the quantum field, your entire existence is changed. You are sitting within the energy of creation, the source of energy of all that has ever existed and will ever exist. That is purity in its ultimate form. And that is where you have the power of God. All right, that's about enough for now. Took it out of me, that one. I don't know why. A lot of energy flying out of me, apparently. But anyway, I hope that kind of made sense to you guys as much as it did to me, I think, whilst reading it. It's nice for me to be able to read that aloud in this format, because then I kind of truly understand what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So thank you for being my sparring partner when I try to vocalize that sort of stuff. But yeah, welcome to that yet another insight into the mind that is Sam Stolberg. And if you did make it this far, I do truly thank you for listening. And very, very keen to hear your thoughts and feedback as well. What did this make you think about? What were the things that, did you have a light bulb moment, an epiphany, just an aha? You're just like, oh my gosh. Was there a little bit of existential dread that come through? What feelings and emotions came up for you through this video, or audio if you're listening? So shout out to you, Ellen. Thank you for giving me the idea to split the audio from this. If you've made it this far listening to that, thank you as well. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Sign off for now. If I do genuinely want to hear your thoughts and feedback about whether this sparked any feelings or emotions, any thoughts, anything like that. If this triggered anything for you, I am genuinely keen to hear about it. So leave me a comment, send me a direct message, send me some smoke signals, some carrier pigeons, whatever you need. But I'm keen to hear your feedback. So that's it. Signing off for now. Thank you for tuning in to another Sunday sermon. And I'll catch you in the next video. As always, much love and namaste.